8 school children have died and more than 30 have been critically injured in a spate of road accidents since the start of the new school year. The South African Road Federation has appealed to government to prioritize a change in legislation pertaining to the transportation of vulnerable road users, particularly learners. Earlier, we spoke to Basil Johnson, Operations Director at SARF, about the spike in accidents involving school children.
SARF, the South African Road Federation, was formed in 1950. We represent all the major road players in South Africa, from SANRAL, Department of Transport, the metros, a lot of the consulting engineers, and we represent that industry in South Africa.
We have seen a continuing spike in these road crashes. What do you think is exacerbating this? What makes this worse?
As a road federation, we are horrified to see that some of the vehicles that take children to school are really unroadworthy, in a very bad state. We've seen this in some of the inspections that we've done, and that is why we wrote the article that went into the news.
You are calling for legislation to be put in place. What sort of legislation would you like to see put in place?
The current legislation, as we see it, it mentions that you can carry people on the back of an open bakkie, as long as the sides are 300 millimeters high if the people are sitting, and 900 millimeters high if they are standing. We just feel at this stage that this is inadequate, and we really feel that it's important that stricter measures be put in place. We know that the Department of Transport are busy working at the moment. There's a lot of work. There's papers that are out, and there's supposed to be people that are supposed to report back on their findings. So we're expecting the Department of Transport to give us some new ideas coming very soon.
What has the reception been like in dealing with the Transport Department, or in government per se, in trying to deal with this problem?
The Minister of Transport feels very strongly about this. She really feels that we need to, as a country, stand together and fight the scourge. She always says one death is one death too many, and especially when we're losing our children, that is very important. As a Department of Transport, I was speaking to Thandi Moya just recently, and the department has now taken over the role from the Department of Basic Education at looking at transporting learners to school. They want to enforce the laws more stricter to make sure that the vehicles are safer for the children to go to school.
The transportation of school kids is a huge bag to carry for government alone, if one may say so. As we speak, if we look at what the dynamics are that are involved, who are the other people that you are engaged with in trying to resolve this impasse, this problem?
The other organizations like the RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, are very involved in doing a lot of training for learners at school. They have big programs, especially for the junior schools, and that to train the learners. And they have big Scholar Patrol programs that they're putting in. SANRAL, on the other side, the South African National Roads Authority, what they do is they involved with all the schools in a 5-kilometer radius of their national road, and a lot of education has been done for the children. But I worry that the parents maybe are not aware that the children are traveling in such unroadworthy vehicles.
Which brings us to talk about really whether these parents have a choice, because if you look at the situation, the scenario as we speak, most of these parents do not have any other alternative. Where does SARF come in to educate them or to assist them in saying you could maybe pursue other avenues of providing transport?
I think as SARF we can make parents aware through programs that what is really the minimum requirements for these vehicles. I think the big thing is they need to actually climb into the vehicles themselves, and as parents, if they see that the vehicle is really unroadworthy, I understand the situation financially that maybe they can't afford it, but you know, to lose a child is a terrible thing. I would say it's important for them to make sure that the vehicles are safe, and even put pressure onto the schools to not allow these vehicles transporting their children to and from schools.
Let's talk about the legal processes that have taken place that involve all the other people who have been, say, arrested after they were found to have flouted the law in these kind of accidents. Do you think that judicial processes have not been sufficient in taking punitive measures against those involved?
In many cases, yes, I agree with you. I don't think the measures have been taken place. I know there's a meeting today in Parliament with the Justice Department to discuss these things at this very moment as we speak now. So we're hoping that something positive will come out of the talks in Parliament today to get the Justice Department to be on board, and we'll see what comes from that.
You would, as SARF, expect the private sector to come on to jump onto the bandwagon and try and help government in dealing with this problem, wouldn't you?
Sure, and as a road federation, many of our members are private organizations, consulting engineers and people like that, people that are involved in designing in road safety, and they'll come on board and assist wherever they possibly can.
There are other areas in the world where you discover that school transport is well advanced. Are there any areas, are there any parts of the world where you as SARF and as government and as the private sector can learn and come up with a module that can resolve this problem once and for all?
There are. The South African Road Federation is a member of both the International Road Federations in Geneva and Washington, and we've received a lot of information, especially out of the Scandinavian countries, on their scholar transport. Obviously, they're far more advanced than that we are, and there's a lot that we can learn from them and really bring those things home to South Africa.
And what would you think would be the best module in this regard, briefly?
I think the big thing really is the whole thing of enforcement. We see that as really playing a major part. And if we can encourage the different provinces, because apparently they have the jurisdiction on the enforcement and that as well, to place more enforcement, to give their traffic officers more ability to approach the people and to really enforce the law.